But let's talk about that Vince Staples Dark Times. Let's talk about that Vince Staples Dark Times because I believe Vince is definitely an underrated musician. He's definitely an underrated hip hop artist, right? We saw what he did with Ramona Park. We saw what he did with the Vince Staples self-titled. We saw what he did with Big Fish, right? And people have been falling in love with his personality. People have been falling in love with the image that he presents on these interviews, but sometimes just kind of like unique. We think about Joey Badass. Sometimes when we think about these actors and rappers, when we think about these rappers turned actors, like we kind of forget what they are musically. And I think a part of Vince has been lost because of what we've seen him do with the Vince Staples show on Netflix, which is also a masterpiece, which he also rapped about on this project. This record, like, this is one of the most digestible records that you're gonna hear this year. And I think about records like Gunna, One of One. I think about La Russell and Hit Boy, Rent Due. I think about 21 Savage, American Dream. I think about those type of albums that's very cohesive and very compatible and easy to listen to all the way through. This is a shorter album. It's 13 tracks, but pretty much three of them were skits. So I would say this is a 10 track EP, right? And he put a lot of meat on this bone. He put a lot of juice into this tenderloin right here because this album is probably the best Vince Staples album I've actually heard, to be honest. I like the Vince Staples self-titled, but I feel like he did some risk taking. He went to a whole nother level, right? And another level, I mean, he kept it Wi-Fi, right? So that you could pay attention a little bit more to what he was saying. He didn't want to distract the listeners from the message he was trying to convey. And he told some immaculate stories. He talked about survivor's guilt. He talked about a friend being locked up and he wanted to talk to him, but he really just felt guilty about telling him how well he was doing because the friend was locked up. He talked about women lying on Justin. He talked about a woman telling her man, "Oh, this is just my little cousin." Right? He told stories on the radio. Like the radio don't play the shit that I used to love. He told a story about meeting a woman and a woman not liking rap because of how they disrespect women and him not understanding why she felt so strongly about it until she left him, until she broke his heart, and that caused him to look into other genres of music, to go deep into that soul music, right? So that he could have an understanding of the love that those other artists had for women and the type of, pedestal that they would put love on back in the day, right? And then we go to Nothing Even Matters, similar to, Lauryn Hill. So he really gave us a lot to be proud of, a lot to think about, and a lot to digest. But this was a message that the community needed. This is a message that he delivered for us, and he didn't have to do it because he gave us the Vince Staples show. He gave us some perspective when he was giving us that knowledge and that wisdom on that show. Now he comes back with the album Dark Times, right? And he's giving us more perspective, right? More outlook, more things to think about. And I was upset when he was saying nobody cares about the beef. Taylor Swift is trying to make sure that the creators get the money of all of our streams and all of our streams. I'm worried about something else. I was upset because he was trying to downplay it like it wasn't happening. I get it. Like he got bigger things in his life to worry about. He know how the industry games goes. I get it, Vince. But I feel like he knew when he was speaking that in that moment, he was shitting on hip hop, right? He was shitting on one of the greatest battles that was going on in hip hop, and it felt like condescending. So when he was going to release this album, I was like, oh, I get it. It's a rollout, you know? So I feel like he did kind of roll out his album based off his comments on the music industry. But he's also saying that these media outlets wanted to point out that he said that and then point out the other beneficial things that he was saying during that whole live stream for the community of Long Beach. So I think the production is on point. It's like that lo-fi music, like where you can really just hear the sounds, but it puts you in that move. It puts you in that move of enlightenment and put you in that move of self-reflection, self-awareness. It puts you in the mood in like a meditative state to where you can really like look at what's going on around you internally and look what's going on the outside of you externally. And I believe with his illustration on his lyrics, because he didn't get too deep, he didn't try to be lyrical miracle, but he gave you lyrics that were blessings, lyrics that you could be thankful for, that you could tell that he has lyricism, that he has something to say, and that he's very thoughtful and mindful with the choice of his words. So Dark Times, actually this was a light in the moment of hip hop. Actually this was a light bulb. This was something like an idea, right? Creating different ideas, different things of how to attack this journey that we call life. So Dark Times by Vince Staples, it gets the stamp of approval from me, right? It gets a stamp of approval from me. And albeit it's coming off this Sexy Red Drake feature, it's coming off the Kendrick Lamar and Drake rap beef, albeit it's coming off the Rhapsody. But I kept listening to this, and I don't usually keep listening to albums. I might give it 2 or 3 spins so I can critique it, but when I keep going back to it, that's how I know it's a great album. That's how I know this is going to be one of those albums of 2024 that the industry and that the community cannot deny. This is a good album right here.